Hey guys, Katie Nolan here. Before we get into the podcast this week, we are brought to you by SeatGeek, which you know and love, longtime sponsor of the podcast. It's always the first place I go to look for tickets to a game or concert. I have the SeatGeek app on my phone, very easy to use. Actually, tonight, a bunch of people from Garbage Time are going to the Flyers Islanders game.
Yeah.
We used SeatGeek to get those tickets. What?
Yeah.
It was dope. So everything about SeatGeek is designed to make life easier for sports and music fans. It does all the price comparison for you by searching multiple ticket sites and ensuring that you get the best possible deal. How nice is that of them? It's really nice. They do all the work. They save you the time and money. And they want to help you get the most bang for your buck. I talk about this every time I talk about SeatGeek, but the best thing about it is it ranks tickets by value, so you know which one you're getting a steal for and which one you're being overcharged for. So you won't buy a bad... How many times in your life have you bought like an obstructed view seat without knowing?
Yeah.
SeatGeek would rank that as like really low value, and so you would know not to click on that one, which is pretty sweet. Best of all, our listeners get a $20 rebate off their first SeatGeek purchase. So to get that $20 rebate, download the SeatGeek app, go to the settings tab and click add a promo code, enter promo code KATIE. SeatGeek will send you $20 after you've made your first ticket purchase. So download the SeatGeek app and enter promo code Katie today. We are also brought to you guys by the Black Tux. Do you have a wedding or special event coming up? If so, you've had that coming up for a couple weeks now, because I ask you this every week, listener. And every week you're like, yup. And I'm like, wow, you have a really active social life. I'm really happy for you. Meanwhile, I'm going to sit on the couch and eat popcorn all weekend. So anyway, back to the point. If you need a tux right now, don't panic. The Black Tux designs modern fit suit and tuxedo rentals that deliver straight to your door. You lazy human. And now the Black Tux will give you a free home try-on so you can see the fit and feel the quality of their suits before you go to your event. And the best part, you can do it all online. You don't have to talk to anybody. You can choose your own look at their website, theblacktux.com. Prices start at just $95. Most Texas costs you hundreds of dollars. Most tuxes are going to cost you hundreds of dollars, and you have to go talk to a person. You have to go to a store, and you have to get sized up. We've talked about this. It gets weird.
It sucks.
He puts his hand in weird places, and you're not allowed to say this is weird because it's his job. But you don't have to do that with the Black Tux. And their suits are designed with fine Italian wool, which bitches love. I just feel like I tell you guys this every week. Their expert customer care team is always available to answer questions. Matt loves to shill for them.
I do. I was panicking for my special event, and they hooked me up. They took me through the process. It's great. I endorse it. Think it's awesome.
Yeah. So guys, visit theblacktux.com/garbage and experience a new way to rent. That's theblacktux.com/garbage. Should we pod?
We should.
Hey guys, welcome into the Garbage Time Podcast. I'm your host, Katie Nolan, joined today by producer Matt.
Hey.
Hi.
What's up?
Nothing. What's up with you?
Not much.
Lovely.
Just doing some construction in the background once again.
Yeah. Yep. So what we're going to do today, guys, we're going to switch the order up a little bit. We're going to get right into it. We had Peter King from the MMQB on this week. We had a really interesting conversation with him. Peter and I have pretty publicly disagreed on some stuff, so having him come in here was really interesting, and I was surprised that he wanted to, and I respect him the hell out of him for that, actually.
Totally.
We had a really interesting conversation about, talked about the quality of football. You know, he's been working in this industry for a long time, and so it was interesting to hear his point of view on why ratings are declining. We talked about Darren Sharper and his very public opinion on him being in the Hall of Fame. We talked about his relationship with the commissioner. We talked about that Skyline Chili photo.
The picture.
And we also talked about the MMQB, a website that I think not enough people talk about in these types of ways. So anyway, we're gonna let you listen to the conversation with Peter now, and then after that, producer Matt and I are gonna do a speed round. We're gonna do a speed round of Fade That Pick afterwards. So take a listen to Peter King from the MMQB right now, and we will see you off the back for some Fade That Pick.
Cool.
Peter King, editor-in-chief of the Monday Morning Quarterback on SI. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Very good to have you. Let's start talking some actual football. You had a great story this week on Derek Carr from the Raiders. You talked to him right after the game. I may have said that he's a fantastic quarterback and that the Raiders are going to have a good season. It turns out I was right. Do you think he's MVP material?
I think if you pick 5 guys right now, he'd be one of the candidates for MVP at the midpoint. What I think is so interesting about him, like, he's played a bunch of games like Dak Prescott played Sunday night. He's played some games where he's horrible at the beginning, and then he does a few great things to win. Horrible is too strong a word, where he just isn't very good. And that's what I really like about him. I think what makes Russell Wilson really good is what he did in the NFC Championship game against Green Bay, where he was absolutely terrible for 3 quarters. And then he came back in the 4th quarter and it was great. That's the sign of a great quarterback. And I love the fact that Derek Carr just doesn't care. He's, like the honey badger. He just, he doesn't care. And I think he's basically going to be great for a long time. You know what's sad about him, in my opinion? Albert Breer of our staff is going to do a column on him, and he's right about it. We were talking the other day, and he said that, some people discounted Derek Carr because of his brother.
Right.
Knocked him down in the draft, maybe even took him off the draft board. But David Carr was sacked 900 times in his first 3 games in Houston. So how do you judge a quarterback based on being sacked all the time?
Yeah.
So and you know what? I'll tell you what was really cool about talking to Derek Carr the other day. See, I still get a kick out of this. I'm 59 years old, and I really kind of get excited when Derek Carr is on the phone from the bus on the way to the airport. I think that's cool. But most guys
on a bus on the way to a plane, that's
nice.
crazy. That's a lot of transportation.
Only Katie Nolan would think of that. That was good. But here's what a lot of times guys are, it's a cliche fest, okay, which you have to sort of fight through.
Yeah.
But Derek Carr was so friggin' excited. He was spent, totally spent, but he was euphoric. What's the combination of euphoric and spent? You've spent or something. I don't know what.
That was
but
good, Peter.
That's what he was. And what was so cool is how excited he is. He's like a kid.
Yeah.
He just is having a great time, and he just can't believe it. These are the Raiders he watched as a kid. I said, you've just thrown for more yards than Darryl LaMonica, Ken Stabler, Jim Plunkett, or Rich Gannon ever did. And he goes, they told me that after the game, and I almost started crying. I just think that's kind of cool, yeah.
Yeah, because you don't get a lot of that. Normally it's,
No.
we went out there, we tried real hard, we got it done. It's all about the team.
It's all about the team. You sound like Putty.
You said he's one of 5 right now. Who are your other 4?
Oh, you know what? I don't know where I am with Brady. I'm really no. Well, think about this. They've played how many games now? 7. Mm-hmm. And he's played 3 of them. He's played less than half of their games. No, wait, he's played 4.
Yeah.
He's played 4 games.
So they played 8,
played 8.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's my bad.
So, and he's played the best 4 games in succession of his life.
Yeah.
Okay? But he's played half of their games.
So,
what was their record before he got there? 3-1.
Yeah,
This is about value. It's about value.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Said the Patriots fan. Yeah, what?
he's amazing.
He is amazing.
He's incredible.
Yeah, and by the end of the season, when he will have played 75% of the games, that will be a very good question. I am on record, and you hate some of my records, but I am on record as
We'll
saying
get to that.
you hate some of my albums.
We'll get to it.
But I am on record basically as saying that I think if you miss X percentage of your team's games, that has to count. Because if somebody else plays all 16 and plays at a very high level, and they're on the same level as you were for 12.
Well, same level is debatable, right?
It might. We'll see at the end of
Is
the season.
anybody on the same level as Tom Brady?
Not right now, no. But he missed the month of September.
But that's because of a witch hunt. No fault of his own, Peter.
No fault of his own. I'm not. Hey, whatever it is, it is. It is what it is.
Best saying
as
in the
your
world.
person would say. Mm-hmm. Did you know that at the Renaissance Hotel in Foxborough, next to the stadium?
I've stayed there, yeah.
Okay, on the doors going into the hotel is a sticker that says "Do your job."
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And I will say the cleaning staff does do their job.
They do their job.
Very
yeah,
efficient.
Yeah, yes.
Always made my bed.
I don't know who the other 5 are. But I haven't even thought of it. I'm just saying that Carr probably right now is one of the 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady is not?
I would say right now he's not.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
That hurts me personally.
Yeah.
So, but like you're saying, after playing 12 games, would you vote for him for MVP? Could you?
I don't.
knowing
I could vote for him
that
for
he's
MVP. Yes, I definitely could.
Okay.
Will I? I don't know. We'll see who else does what.
Oy vey.
What happens if Drew Brees throws for 5,600 yards and
Well, he's going to have to
a
with his
bad
defense.
Saints team limps into the playoffs?
It's not going to happen, but
Maybe not. Probably not. But that's why you don't know what's going to happen.
yeah.
So let's see what happens when it happens.
Okay, well, while we're talking about
Yeah.
the Pats, and I'm a Patriots fan, do you have any scoops on that Jamie Collins trade that shocked us all?
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the Drew Bledsoe trade. You want to know why? Because nobody ever really talks about this, but I firmly believe it's true. That even though when Drew Bledsoe was at his height, at his peak, and was the highest paid player in football, 2000, 2001, right when Brady took over. The year before, the summer before, after Brady's first year, so this would have been the spring of 2001. I don't think that there was unanimity inside the Patriots that Drew Bledsoe is going to be our quarterback for the next 5, 6, 7 years. Because there was a feeling inside the Patriots that Drew Bledsoe freelanced too much. And that he would sit there with Charlie Weiss in meetings before the game, and he would basically say, yeah, let's do this. And I'm obviously paraphrasing. I wasn't there. But then they play the game, and he does some things that they hadn't discussed.
Yeah.
Why'd you do that? Why did you make that call? And so I think Belichick and Charlie Weiss got a little bit frustrated with him. And I'm not saying they would have made the change in 2001 when he got hurt, when he was hit by Mo Lewis. But there was some dissatisfaction inside the Patriots about this great player. And I think the same thing is true with Collins, that there was some dissatisfaction, as Mike Lombardi said on Twitter the other day, about the fact that he was freelancing and that he was going out to make plays that he wasn't really doing within the scheme of the offense.
Yeah.
Or the defense. So that is really about all I know. I think it must have been there. Katie, Bill Belichick, I believe, has learned a lot in his time with the Patriots. And one of the biggest things he's learned is you can't win when you try to explain why you did something that is controversial. And you know what? He doesn't have to. I think a long time ago with Bernie Kosar, back when you were a pup, with Bernie Kosar in Cleveland, he basically made a decision that enraged everybody in Cleveland. And he tried to explain it. But there was no explaining it. Nobody wanted to hear anything. And plus, he wasn't winning. So, in my opinion, I think one thing that Bill Belichick has really learned over the years is that I'm going to do what I do. If it's good enough, great. If it isn't, one day Bob Kraft's going to call me and say, it's been nice knowing you. Here's your gold watch.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah.
So
In
good
Bill
for him.
we trust.
Yeah.
Real quick, what about Romo? Is his career over in Dallas or even in general? ?
I've talked to Stephen Jones about this a couple of times, and I think the Cowboys are, rather than being tormented by this, are euphoric. They've got the best quarterback situation in the NFL when Romo is healthy enough to play. If Dak Prescott gets hurt, they've got the best backup quarterback they've ever had in the franchise's history to go in and play. As for the future, I don't know. The future is very cloudy for Romo right now, but I would not be surprised at all if opening day next year he's the quarterback of pick one, the Jets, the Bears, the whoever's.
One of the millions of teams
Yeah.
that need a
Yeah.
good quarterback. All right, interesting enough. What do you think about Cam Newton's hats?
I would not wear them.
Yeah.
However,
I would not recommend you wear them.
However, the green one on Sunday was especially
With the pink.
Yeah, it was especially non-Peter King, I would say.
In what way?
It's not a hat I would wear.
Okay.
But I don't mind the hat if that's the hat he wants to wear. I'm a don't worry, be hatty type.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Well, I just let him wear what he wants to wear.
When in Rome, he
Yeah.
starts making puns.
Yeah.
Obviously, the thing everyone's talking about with the NFL this year is that the ratings are down. And you had a very interesting article on Monday Morning Quarterback where you guys asked the fans themselves what reasons they thought. But before we get to that, I mean, you've been on the NFL beat for 32
32
years now?
yeah.
So you've been watching this product intently for 32 years. I'm interested to know if you think the quality is worse than it was in years
Yes.
before. Yes.
I think two things about the quality. I think there are way too many ticky-tack flags. Way too many. There's a little bit of hand grabbing downfield, so you get a 23-yard pass interference call, or defensive holding, or offensive pass interference, over and over again. And again, I want the officials to call what are truly flags, what are truly fouls. I think that they're erring on the side of calling everything that they see. I don't like that. I think fans really hate that. I think there's one other thing that I haven't really heard many people talk about too much. We're in a 140-character life now. Everybody wants everything fast. I woke up on Sunday, and we said, hey, there's a game on at 9:30. Cool, let's watch the game. And then I started to think to myself, hey, football is going to be on for the next 14 and a half hours. Even for people who really like football a lot.
It's a lot of beer. You got to get a lot of beer.
My brother-in-law who lives in Connecticut, he said, I just can't do it. It's overwhelming. And a couple of years ago, Mark Cuban said, NFL is too fat, whatever is cliche, fat and happy, and pigs and hogs. But I think there is really something to that. That the NFL keeps trying to let's find another piggy bank to break that we can get some money out of. Rather than to say, is this a good thing for the game? That football is on for 14 hours on Sunday, for 3 on Monday, and for 3 more. And not to mention 3 more. But with 94 hours of pregame shows on NFL Network, their whole network is a pregame show. And there's nothing wrong with that if people want to watch it. But honestly, Katie, and this is probably a bad thing to say because we formed the MMQB 3.5 years ago because of the apparently insatiable appetite for football that might be satiable. And I'm not trying to put us out of business, but I am saying that I think that there's a lot of people out there who basically are saying, I don't really want football to be 24/7, 365. I'd like it to be in the fall when the leaves are changing, and I'd like to have 2 games on Sunday and a Monday night football game. Something like that, or maybe 3 games on Sunday, because obviously Sunday night football, where I work, is tremendously popular, even though the ratings are down this year. But to me, and I would just say this, in my opinion, and I'm not positive about this, it's just a gut feeling.
Thing you think.
I was shocked at the ratings on Sunday night that baseball, even though it's the Cubs,
I know,
beat the NFL by 3 points.
Fox, woo.
It's almost the opposite of last year.
I know.
When on the same night, a good game, an Aaron Rodgers game, beat the Mets in Kansas City by 3 or 4 points. It's the opposite that happened now. And look, I love baseball. I didn't watch Sunday night, but otherwise I've watched so much of these playoffs because I'm writing and everything. But I watch so much of these playoffs. I love it. But it's mind-boggling that the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles, a rivalry game with 2 really young, exciting teams, get beaten, not blown out of the water, but get beaten soundly by a baseball game. That, to me, I think the NFL has to be saying, that's not good for us.
Yeah, you think it has anything to do with that absolutely shit garbage Thursday night game that we got? That was like, why am I doing this to myself?
Are you saying that game reminded you in some ways of the color of the Jacksonville trousers? As I said in my column, diarrhea-like?
It was, that has to be one of the worst games you've ever seen.
I think so. But I think that the NFL in designing a package of Thursday night games that essentially are, they've got to put every team on in prime time. I can imagine Howard Katz, the guy who makes the schedule, and his team looking out, and he goes, boy, we got to get Tennessee and Jacksonville on. Oh, my God. Let's just put them on against each other and hope that nobody notices.
Oh, my God.
Because that's what kind of game it was, too.
I was on a plane and there was no TV, which I've noticed is more common lately than it
You were
used to
probably
be.
pleased.
I was like, that's fine. I'm fine with this. Normally I'd be like, refreshing Twitter. No, I did not care at all. Everyone was like, be grateful. You don't have to watch this. Yeah. So I mentioned that article on MMQB where you asked the fans why they weren't watching. There were a couple of reasons, things like oversaturation, which is what you're just talking about, the officiating, which you also mentioned, election coverage has been mentioned. So one guy, I want to read a little bit of what he wrote as his answer to the question. He said 3 reasons viewership is declining. Number 1, cap. Number 2, cap. Number 3, cap. So it's one reason, but he lists it 3 times, Kaepernick. He's got a right to express himself, but he and the league and the owners and the coaches who support him need to understand their disrespect of the flag, the country, and the thousands who have died to give him the right to express himself is producing some serious consequences for them. He then goes on to say he used to watch a lot of football. He doesn't watch football at all anymore, and he won't be purchasing products made by their advertisers. Do you think that's like a commonly held belief?
I think a lot of people feel that way.
Why?
Because we, for so long, have just played the national anthem before games. And even men on the sidelines, and I'm sure there's some women too who are not happy with the way this country is going, have just blindly stood there and not done anything during the national anthem. Kaepernick did something, and my belief is that, and I hate to be corny, but that's one of the reasons why you go to war, for the right of your citizenry to express itself. I think he has every right in the world to do it, and people who aren't going to watch New England play Buffalo because Colin Kaepernick is kneeling on the sidelines, I mean, it's your right to do that, and if you want to do that and that's your form of protest to not watch, good for you. That's also very American. You don't have to watch. But I just think to describe it as some sort of I'm patriotic and you're not. I mean, Thomas Jefferson once said dissent is patriotic. So why not have a bumper sticker where you question America? And why can't Colin Kaepernick question America? I don't have any problem with it whatsoever, but there's no question that a lot of people in the United States have a problem with it.
It's fascinating.
Is it something that is really knocking ratings down? This is just my opinion. If there's somebody in Tewksbury, Massachusetts, who loves the Patriots, but who says, I'm not watching, and the Patriots have a huge playoff game against Denver, and it's a Sunday afternoon, and he's out sledding with his kids rather than watching the game, that's fine. But I just really wonder how many of those people who say, I'll never watch another game, once their team is in the playoffs, are they going to watch a game? Maybe they won't, and I'm not saying, well, I showed you, you really are not principled. I'm just saying that let's see if they stick to it. It's hard for me to believe that Colin Kaepernick kneeling and the NFL reaffirming his right to kneel is something that would mean that people wouldn't actually watch the games.
Especially when there are so many other, like the reasons we just recapped, there's so many other reasons to not watch. It's fascinating that this guy who responded to the MMQB thing, Yahoo
not the
poll,
only one. I get a lot on Twitter. The same guy writes me every Sunday.
Oh, God.
Basically says, you don't get it. I'm not watching the NFL anymore because that guy kneels. He writes the same tweet every
Trump?
Sunday.
Because Trump said the same thing yesterday. Donnie went out and said that the 2 reasons are the election and also Kaepernick.
Yeah. He also said that players are babies for getting little dings in the head.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
Yeah. He's said a few interesting things, that Donnie. Hey, guys, more with Peter King in a minute. But first, a question for you. Have you ever lost or thought you lost your phone? It's the worst. If you're like me, your entire life is on that phone. And I do lose it rather often. But guess what? Identity thieves know that your entire life is on that phone. And when your lost phone winds up in the hands of an identity thief, it can be a beginning of a disaster financially, emotionally, and even physically. You're going to sweat.
Nightmare.
It's going to be a lot of sweat.
Ugh.
That's the physical disaster is the amount of sweat.
Deal with it.
Yeah. So guys, protect yourself with, deodorant, but also with Identity Guard. With Identity Guard, you get protection from a company that's been in the business for over 20 years. One that's helped protect more than 47 million people. That's more friends than I have on Facebook.
Yeah.
Only by 1 million. Identity Guard continuously monitors millions of transactions and articles and sends you the news, tools, and guidance you need to minimize your risk. Plus, if you were to become a victim of identity theft, Identity Guard's victim recovery specialists will be there to help you through the recovery process. Identity Guard even offers identity theft insurance with coverage of up to $1 million. It's a lot of money. So get the identity theft protection service that's right for you. Visit Identity Guard at identityguard.com/podcast. That's identityguard.com/podcast. And if anyone asks, be like, specifically the Garbage Time Podcast.
Yeah,
what a
that's
good
right.
podcast that is.
Give them some feedback.
Yeah, let them know how much you love us, but also their services. Also, guys, we're brought to you today by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? I think every time we want to tell you who sponsors the podcast, we ask you a question. Are you hiring? Do you have an event coming up? Is your life on your phone? Can you get the phone? Are you hiring? Yes? Okay. Do you know where to post your job to find the best candidates? Yeah? Well, posting your job in one place isn't enough to find the quality candidates, so I think you were wrong. With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post your job to 100 plus job sites, including social media networks like Facebook and Twitter, all with a single click. That means you don't have to then click share to put it on your Facebook or your social media. That is huge. I love when things are less steps than 1,000.
Yes.
Just one step is good. You can find candidates in any city, any industry, nationwide. Just post once and then watch qualified candidates roll in to ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface. You don't have to juggle emails or calls to your office. You can quickly screen candidates, you can rate them, and guess what? You'll hire the right person fast. If you want to find the perfect hire, you need to post your job on all the top sites, and now you can do that with one click. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by over 1 million businesses. If you're the Browns, you can find maybe a quarterback doctor on ZipRecruiter. If you're Russell Wilson, I think we said this last week, you could find some offensive linemen. It's just a suggestion.
Yeah, it's out there.
It's just a suggestion. I don't recommend Craigslist. I recommend ZipRecruiter.
Agreed.
Because you're going to find some other stuff you didn't want if you go on Craigslist, like herpes. And right now, my listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/Katie. That's ZipRecruiter, Recruiter.com/Katie. I have it in front of my face and it was hard. ZipRecruiter.com/Katie. Okay, back to Peter King. With Kaepernick, and like I was just saying, there's so many other reasons to not watch. We've seen lately that, sports have sort of become a platform for us to discuss larger societal issues, such as, Black Lives Matter or your right to protest or domestic violence. Is that, for you, a person who covers or has tried to essentially cover on the field stuff, how do you feel about the fact that now sports are sort of being talked about in this other off the field way?
I mean, I kind of feel like in some ways football has been sort of dragged kicking and screaming into real life, because for years, I think with domestic violence, it was very easy to take the man's side in the he said, she said, because there's no video evidence. Finally, with Ray Rice, there was video evidence, so they had to draw the line in the sand. They had to wring their hands, and they had to really do something. I think once you get really deep into, and we'll take domestic violence, you realize how hard it is to actually adjudicate something like this. Because let's say you're the NFL, and in the Josh Brown case, there is a filing with, or there is the wife, the former wife now, who says in a statement to police that he has abused her 20 times or whatever the exact wording was. And then let's say she doesn't want to press charges. And then let's say the NFL tries to talk to her and she says, I don't want to talk to the NFL. Then the local authorities say, it's going to be very hard. We have one person who we've interviewed, the husband, who says, I totally deny this. She's making it up, whatever it is. And then he talks to the NFL. I deny it. I didn't do this, whatever. So the question then becomes, do you take the word of somebody who made this statement to police but then said, I'm not talking to you? I don't know whether she ever recanted. I don't think she did. I'm not talking to you, and I don't want to be involved in this. Then the question is, what should the NFL do?
Yeah.
And what does the NFL do? Because in society, the law enforcement people did not bring Josh Brown up on charges.
Yeah, it's a very complicated issue because
it's
the way
very
victims,
complicated.
when you report a crime, and very often in domestic violence cases, a victim will be reaching out for help in a situation, but then will realize they don't want to press charges, or they don't want Josh Brown to lose their job.
But and I'm trying to remember where in the reporting of this it was, but I think it might have been somebody in Seattle wrote that the police said that she did not want to take this any further because she didn't want Josh Brown fired from this job where he makes a lot of money, because she doesn't work and she's got 3 children.
But so I think the takeaway there then is that the NFL doesn't, it's a very complicated issue to handle, but the NFL doesn't really know how to handle it. And when Goodell came into office and he changed, the personal conduct policy was one of his big things, given all the arrests leading up to the months before he became commissioner. He changed it in 2007 to basically say it doesn't matter if you get punished by the law, we can still punish you on the field for things you do off the field. Do you think that was a mistake?
No.
For him doing that?
And I believe that no matter what the authorities said about Josh Brown, I believe the NFL absolutely categorically should have a 6-game baseline for domestic violence and then let the person grieve the process. What the NFL says is, okay, basically that's nice and idealistic and very good, and yeah, we'll get applauded for one day, but then we'll get creamed because he's going to grieve it and he'll get it cut down to 2 or 1 or none. It's like if Greg Hardy's suspension isn't upheld for what he did or what he is alleged to have done, and that gets cut from 10 to 4 games, that is below the baseline of 6. You got to just throw your hands in the air and say, look, we don't have everybody on the same page. And that's why, in my opinion, Roger Goodell has to get out of this business. He has to, because the Players Association will never, ever agree with him.
The business of punishing them for off-the-field stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I believe that it should be done. If he wants to have the first whack at it, great. But then I believe that it has to be something independent of the NFL so that the NFLPA will not blindly fight everything. That they will start to say what the NFLPA won't do now, hey, you know what? We should stand up against domestic violence.
Right.
But right now, they just defend their players, which they're a union. They should do that. They should defend their rank and file. But there are some things that they have defended that even they must hold their noses.
And when the Brady thing happened, I remember the conversation then was, well, now Greg Hardy's going to appeal or whatever it was, that it was like these, but like if you fight this Brady suspension and you appeal that and he upholds that, it's sort of like, it's tough for a fan not to say he picks and chooses in a very strange way.
Well, but Goodell didn't hear the appeal for Greg Hardy, though.
Yeah.
Goodell,
again, an interesting choice, as he has the ability to hear those appeals if he wanted to.
In the Greg Hardy one, well, let's talk about Brady for a second. It's totally different, but I think all appeals should be out of strictly the NFL's hands, because, and look, I'm not saying that this is perfect either. But one of the things that I like about the adjudication process in some of the other sports is that, let's say if Adam Silver, you see where Adam Silver will suspend basketball players, and in essence, the NBA Players Association will say, hey, great, or whatever they say. But I mean, you don't read whoever the NBA Players Association's version of D. Smith is ripping all these rulings. And and I'm not saying D. Smith rips every ruling, but most rulings they'll say, hey, they'll find some fault with it. That's why, in my opinion, Roger Goodell has to figure out at some point that even though I have this power, it's counterproductive to the long-term best interest of our game for me to wield it. Just give it up and give an olive branch to the players. Drew Brees is one of the most reasonable men that I've ever met covering this game. And I had him on my podcast about a month ago. And I thought that he would be sort of mild, and he just flat out said, that he and the players, they don't trust Roger Goodell. So why don't you, if you're Roger Goodell, why don't you give players a reason to trust you? Why don't you say, I'll give the appeals for discipline process to an absolute, total, neutral third party, and I'm not going to ask for something in bargaining for it.
But do you think he would ever do that?
No.
You know that he wouldn't.
No, I won't. I don't. And I just think it's the wrong decision.
Yeah. How do you feel about Goodell as a commissioner in general? I know he's your friend. I know you guys eat chili together.
Yeah, I have eaten chili with him before.
How much do you regret that picture? Do you wish that didn't exist?
It was a dumb idea. I mean, I've done dumb things on Twitter before. But I mean, that was a dumb idea because of what has happened in the time after it. But at the time, it was just hilarious. We were wearing bibs, eating Skyline chili at the corner of 7th and Vine in Cincinnati when I was trailing him for a story. But that makes everybody who says, and people have a right to say, I always wonder what would happen if, so you grew up in Massachusetts. To me, the biggest legend in our business was a guy named Will McDonough. He made it possible for ugly guys like me to go on TV and to have sort of profiles. He's a great columnist for the Boston Globe. Then he was great on TV, mostly for NBC. But the one difference between Will when he did his job and the Adam Schefters and Glazers and everybody and me to a lesser degree do my job is that everybody knows who we are, and they have the ability to get to us 24/7. If you wanted to get to Will McDonough, you had to write him a letter. And usually by the time you wrote him a letter, most of your anger had seeped away from your fingers that you were writing. And so I'd be really curious to know how Will McDonough would react to the vitriol and the hatred and the incredible anger out there at people, not just in our position. I talked to Chuck Todd for my podcast this week, and it was hilarious. I mean, he told me that one of the things that he has learned is that one of the big reasons why Trump has really risen is that it's basically, and voters have told him this, one guy in Iowa in particular, that it's their middle finger to all of us, to the establishment, to the media, to everything. And so, and that's a long way of saying, of course I regret putting that picture online because everybody always uses it to say that I'm in bed with Roger Goodell in the league. But, that's just the way it goes. You live with decisions you make. I kind of wish I didn't do that, but I always say to people about that, read what I write, instead of thinking that because that picture was taken that I believe X, Y, and Z.
How do you manage that relationship? Because you've been covering the league for so long, and you've obviously made relationships you have to in order to be good at your job. How do you keep from letting those affect the way you cover? Because that's your number one criticism that people will give you is that you're in bed with Goodell or you're in bed with such and such. How do you make sure that you're not? That has to be tough.
You just try, if a story comes up, you try to cover it, as closely as you can. You try to use your sources to cover it, but you also have the ability to be able to stand at a little bit of arm's length and try to make a judgment about the particular story. Josh Brown, I believe that, I'm not saying that 3 people were at fault almost equally, but I believe there's a lot of fault to be spread around between John Mara, the NFL, and Josh Brown. Each one of them has some fault there. And then that's, people will perceive that I'm unwilling to come down with a hammer on the NFL. Because in that particular case, I don't think it was warranted to come down on the NFL with a hammer. But that's just, people are going to have to decide what they want to decide, or they're going to have to feel the way they want to feel. And if people think that about me, I'm not going to stand up and say that's not me, but they're going to have to make that call.
And all you can do is your job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing we obviously have to talk about while we're discussing on-field, off-field, you very notably tweeted that Darren Sharper should be considered for the Hall of Fame regardless of his off-the-field actions. That was before he was convicted of serial rape. Now that he has been, do you still think that?
Yes.
I need you to explain that to me.
Because there are a lot of crimes in society that clearly is in the top 10 of most heinous, drugging women and raping them. But in my opinion, there's 48 people who vote for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And if we get in the business of adjudicating players and former coaches based on what they have done off the field, where does it stop? And look, I'll just say this. Darren Sharper is not getting in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Because you don't think his football stats are good enough?
I think his football stats are okay. I mean, he's sixth, I think, all-time interceptions. He had a very good NFL career. There's a log jam at safety that, safeties just don't make the Hall of Fame in general. But I don't mean that they never will, but I'm saying that history has shown in the last 25 years or so, there haven't been many safeties. But I just think there are too many people who are on the committee who we are empowered by. You just consider what happened on the field. But there's too many people, I believe, who would never vote for him because of what happened off the field. And Katie, look, I understand. What do you think? I got 2 daughters. I have a wife. They're absolutely outraged. And I get it. I understand. But I just want to know what crimes then, if you did the following crime, make me a list then of the crimes.
Well, so what if you just drew the line at if he's in jail at the time that he's nominated, convicted of a crime, we just take him off the ballot. I mean, the league is dying for some good PR to just come out and say, listen, I know the league and the Hall of Fame are separate, but they do have a relationship, to just come out and say, we're not going to put Darren Sharper. He's eligible. We're not nominating him because we don't want a criminal.
I don't hate that, but I also think that, then what if he's not in jail, but what if he's done something that is, what if he plea bargained down? And look, all I'm saying is that I'm uncomfortable with judging a man's non-football contributions to football, okay? And
because
the Pro
it's
Football Hall of Fame.
Because it's complicated and it sucks to talk about.
Well, it doesn't necessarily just suck to talk about, but, I've told people this story about Lawrence Taylor. I know that was not one of the first, but that was an early year when I was a Hall of Fame voter. And there was no question that there were some people in that room who, because Taylor was a convicted drug guy and was suspended because of drugs, they weren't voting for him. And in my opinion, I think they should have resigned from the committee. If you don't look at Lawrence Taylor as a football player and decide that he's not, a first ballot Hall of Famer, you shouldn't be in this room. That was my feeling. But this is highly emotional. That's an interesting way that I never thought of it. If you were in jail at the time that you were nominated, you can't be put in the Hall of Fame. That's something to consider. I actually would strongly consider that. I think that's a decent proposal. But just in general, in my column last year when this was the hot button topic, I ran a list of felonies.
Yeah.
And I said, just tell me where to draw the line. Which felonies mean that you're automatically excluded from consideration for the Hall of Fame?
It's a slippery slope. I get what you're saying.
I don't want to be somebody who says, okay, animal abuse, which in some states is a felony. Mm-hmm. If a guy beat up his dog, well, that would bother me a lot. But if a guy beat up his dog or kicked his cat or tortured his canary, does that mean he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame? I don't know. But I'm uncomfortable with where that line would be. Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable with the thought of decorating and honoring a guy who has admitted to doing something so dishonorable. He doesn't deserve
Darren Sharper. Darren Sharper is sort of an easy guy
win
to look at now.
Easy win to not put him in the Hall.
But what I'm saying is that I don't think there's much of a chance he's ever going to be in the Hall anyway. You know what would be really, really interesting? What would have happened if O.J. Simpson's crime was committed 2 years after he retired? Mm-hmm. What would people have done? Mm-hmm. And I'll ask you this question. Should O.J. Simpson be removed from the Hall of Fame?
That's an interesting conversation, but I think it's a completely separate one. I have my opinions on that. I wouldn't love to, when I have children, bring them to the Football Hall of Fame and have to say, and here's a murderer, but he was real good at football. But it's a different conversation because he's already in.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about you have control to put or not put Darren Sharper in. You have one what, 143rd?
148th.
48th of the
But
vote.
understand this. Every year when Darren Sharper makes that list of, I don't know, 196, 100, 110 people, however many it is, that's so far from ever being enshrined. I mean, it's miles away from being enshrined. But then if he gets to the list of 25, then you're saying, okay, now he's a contender for the final 15.
Have you cut it down to 25 yet this year?
I'm trying to think. Yes, and we just had to vote for the 15.
Is he on?
He was on the 25.
Doesn't that piss you off? He's on
Now,
the 25.
I have to think. Hang on a second. I have to think whether he was on the 25. I don't know for sure that he was on the 25. I think he's been on the 25. But my whole point is, I don't think he's ever going to get to the 15 to the point of being considered, because I think there are just too many people who have such anger about what he did, and who honestly have opined similarly and will not ever vote him in the Hall of Fame. So I don't think he's ever going to get to hear his case in the room.
What about T.O. then? If we're saying we don't take off the field stuff into consideration, why?
Well, here's the
T.O.?
interesting thing about T.O. When Michael Irvin was up, I was very public. I wrote about this. We're not supposed to talk about what's in the room, but you can draw your conclusions about whether I discussed this in the room. That I was around that Cowboy team I bet I covered 25 of their games in the triplet era. So I was around them a lot on Thursdays and Fridays, and I saw the dynamic of the team. And I know how important Michael Irvin was. And my whole point always was, whatever number of catches he had, 750, okay, so there's, in 15 years, there's going to be 50 guys with more catches. There might be 50 now. But my whole thing is, you had to have been around the team to know that Michael Irvin didn't take any S. Ever. He never took crap from anybody. He led. He made Alvin Harper a player. He basically, when guys were out of line on that team, he fixed it. He was the cop. And I saw how vastly important. Troy Aikman was not a vocal leader. Emmitt Smith really wasn't a vocal leader. Michael Irvin was the president of the Dallas Cowboys players. He ruled that room. And so, to me, I think that kind of stuff is important. Now, let's go to T.O. I believe that Terrell Owens, who I supported all the way for the Hall of Fame, I believe that he's almost the anti-Michael Irvin.
Yeah.
Because a lot of teammates, coaches, thought that he was a really divisive influence on those teams. So, but even by that measure, and even by some of the other negatives on him, I still think he did more than enough for a long enough period of time to be a Pro Football Hall of Fame player. And I believe he will someday.
You think so?
Yeah. I'll be very surprised, if he's not in Canton in the next few years.
Do you think that that muddies the conversation a little bit on the field, off the field? I get what you're saying, that it affects the on the field stuff, but the locker room isn't between the white lines.
You're right. The locker room isn't on the field, but I think leadership. And I mean, look, there's a lot. It's really complicated.
Yeah.
Like I asked for clarification when Tony Dungy was up for consideration for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I asked for clarification because, I mean, at the time, I had worked with Tony at NBC maybe for 5 or 6 years. Plus, I've been around him a lot, covering him a lot over the years. And I know how influential he has been in the coaching community, particularly in the African-American coaching community. I see the phone calls that he would take. I would see a lot of the ways he was influential. And I believe that just like John Madden should, as in his contributions to pro football, as crazy as it sounds, the Madden game has to be a part of his legacy. Being in the booth has to be a part of his legacy. It isn't just having the best winning percentage and coaching for 10 years. I think everything has to be a little bit of a salad. And Tony Dungy, to me, I think really, when you consider his entire contribution to the game, I mean, and a lot of people will say that's nonsense about, helping this coach get that job somewhere. But
Off
that's
the field stuff.
Yeah, that's part of the overall contribution he had. And I would just say finally that I think what happens in a locker room and on a sideline and everything has a material effect on whether teams win.
Yeah. Maybe if the other players in the locker room would start not being thrilled with a guy being a serial rapist, then that would have an effect on the locker room, and then we can have off the field issues. I see what you're saying.
It's an interesting team.
Yeah.
The Saints were, and look, who did anybody know?
That's a good question.
I don't know who
that
knew.
I don't know if I want to know the answer to.
I don't know
right?
who knew, yeah.
Well, I have to let you go because you have a dog in a crate, but I want to talk about Monday Morning Quarterback just a little bit because I feel like Bill Simmons gets a lot of credit for bringing together a lot of young writers and giving them a platform, and very rarely people do the same for you, but you have Klemko, Jenny Vrentis, Emily Kaplan. You have such a great collection of young talent. What's your vision for MMQB? How's it going? Do you love where it's at?
Well, thank you. It's really nice of you to say, because I believe that, and there are some friends of mine who I've known for a long time covering the NFL who were very unhappy that I didn't ask them to be on the staff, in part because jobs are scarce and some people have had to leave the business because they can't get a job, and I feel terrible about that. But my whole vision was I really wanted to take talented young people who didn't have a lot of preconceived notions. And right now we've got other than me, the staff of 7, the average age of the writing staff is 28.6 years old.
Very young.
And I really, really like that, because every time I talk to Emily Kaplan on the phone, she's excited. She can't wait to do the next story. She's got an incredible story right now about the worst neighborhood in Chicago and how important high school football is to these kids' lives. And I talk to Emily, and I get excited when I get off the phone because she's so excited and she loves, and you can tell her, you can give her advice, and she says, yeah, you're right, I'll do that. And then she does it. And I love that, because I think that I don't know where the business is going. I don't have a good handle on where we're going to be in 3 months, never mind 3 years. And I don't know. All I know is that we need to have some people who have young ideas and who believe that going to cover. Tim Rohan of our staff, who's awesome, just did a story on a kid from Mexico who, if they build that wall, he's in trouble, because every day it takes him 3 hours, but he goes across the border rather, from Matamoros, Mexico, and his life has been saved by this high school in Brownsville, Texas, and the fact that he has become an all-league offensive lineman. If that never happened, he would have been a statistic in Mexico. So, yeah, you're right. Is it our responsibility to take care of some kid from Matamoros, Mexico? No. But look at how his life has changed, and then you tell me, let's build a wall. I don't think we should build a wall. But all I'm saying is that Tim Rohan, that's a friggin' unbelievable story. He's so talented, and they're so hungry. All they want to do is stories, and I'm excited, to have them. So if whenever I'm out, some people would say that I gave some young kids a chance, that would be the biggest, most exciting thing that anybody could say.
Did you handpick them all yourself?
Yes.
Nobody ever really talks about that. I'm not trying to get hot takey, but it's sort of similar to a Grantland thing. Yeah. But no one's really talking about it.
And look, Simmons is awesome. I just think
he's okay.
Simmons is awesome. He's just so good. In part because I want to know why I respect him so much. Because, and look, it's not like Martin Luther King. I had a dream, but he would write stuff for whatever these sites were in New England, in Boston, and he would say, I'm better than these guys at the Herald. I write better than the guys at the Herald and the Globe. So, I'd never heard him say that, but he knew that he belonged. Just nobody was giving him a shot.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't say die. And I love that. I think that's fantastic. Whatever his opinions are, some of them I agree with, some of them I don't. So that's life. I think it's great. And, I think it's really interesting because I think that whatever the future of the media is, it has to be kind of a combo platter of really good reporting. It has to be a salad. It has to be really good reporting. And it also has to be, you've got to be willing to put your guts on the line. And you have to be willing. And one of the reasons why I thought what you did with me on Darren Sharper was really great, and I mean it, is that I thought that, oh my God, this kid who I don't even know is
That's
attacking the crap out of me. And I mean, but that's okay. I am attackable. And if you feel that way and you feel strongly about it, and I must say you made a really, really good case. You made a great case about it. And it caused me to think about it. Didn't cause me to change my mind.
Sure didn't.
But it caused me to think about it. And I think that where the media is going, I just hope that people in America will, what I really worry about with the future of sports writing, the future of media in general, is that there's so many great stories out there that are done, and then immediately, the readers can lampoon the story of saying, oh, you are this because you're this. It's like, anything I write, it's because I'm pro-league. Anything the New York Times writes about Trump is bad, they're pro-Hillary.
Right.
And that's, we can't be this way. There's some facts that have to be acknowledged. And I think in general, we in our business have to be sure that journalism lives. It's important that strong opinions and your opinions that are well backed up, they have to exist too.
Right.
But there also still has to be the kind of great reporting. And that's, I don't know, I feel bad because I think that the future of real reporting is going to be in trouble if a lot of the long-time media outlets go away or have to lay off a lot of people, and in their place, real reporters are not hired. But the people who have the strong opinions are hired. And I guess, and I don't just really refer to Skip Bayless.
I was like, I see where this is going as you're going down the line. I'm like, we fired our news department and hired Skip.
Right, but I just think that, and look, Fox can do whatever Fox wants. That's fine. But I'm just saying that everybody needs to realize that a free press in this country, is really essential. So I just hope that doesn't die.
Yeah, I agree with you there on that. That's
How about
good.
that?
Thank you for coming in and doing this.
Okay,
We don't
you're
always
welcome.
agree on
Thank you.
everything, but this is a very important conversation. I appreciate and respect the hell out of you for bothering to come here and have
Thank
it
you.
with me.
Good.
Big thanks to Peter King again. He
Yeah.
was it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Like a real provocative conversation on the podcast.
Yeah, he's a
which
good
we're
dude.
also going to do again next week. We have Gotham Chopra.
Yeah.
Very interesting conversation about religion and sports. Also, I'm doing Peter King's MMQB podcast.
That's right.
I'm not sure when it drops. I think it might be next week.
Yeah.
So just be on the lookout for that if you're into more uncomfortable conversations.
But
Go
really
check it.
good, thoughtful,
Yeah.
necessary.
I think that's important stuff.
Smart
To not always just have
conversations.
people on that you're like, I love you. No, I love you. But
Yeah.
tell me why you love me, and then I'll tell you why I love you.
Yeah. It
So
was
anyway,
good.
if you learned something or you were interested, just, let us know on Twitter, because it's cool to hear that kind of feedback.
Definitely.
Should we do a very quick fade that pick?
Yeah.
Should we do a fade that quick?
Fade that quick.
Ah!
Into it. Let's do it.
Okay. What's my record, first of all?
So last week brought you to 8-17 and 2 overall. You hit your lock of the week. I think 2-1. Is that right? Last week?
Last week,
2-1. Start that again.
Crushing it.
2-1 last
Yeah.
week. So yeah, this podcast is working.
Yeah, we're
It's
doing
good.
a really good job.
Yeah.
I found that I think my locks, I'm usually right.
Yeah. You're hitting your locks.
Yeah,
It's at least 2 in a row.
maybe.
That's good.
I don't know. Anyway, first game.
First game, Lions at Vikings. The Vikings are favored by 5.5, despite a little bit of uproar this week.
Mm-hmm.
Lions 2-6 against the spread on the road in their last 8. Minnesota 6-0 at home in their last 6. North Turner resigned in the middle of the week out of nowhere, surprising even Mike Zimmer. my favorite thing about this, Sam Bradford found out because his wife got a phone alert that Norv Turner resigned and called Sam Bradford.
Oh, wow.
That seems functional.
That's right.
Organizationally.
It's always so strange to me. It's always one of those, we'll find out more information later, I'm sure. But, like, Norv himself said, I think this move may end up being a positive thing for the Vikings.
Crazy.
Which is like, oh.
Yeah.
But there is sort of that thing, right? When somebody leaves right away or, like, out of nowhere unexpectedly, especially when the team is they lost their last two.
Yep.
It could be the shakeup that they need. I'm not saying it's going to have, like, long-term good effects, but it usually, like, you rally around the team.
Something, yeah.
And then I think the Vikings are going to win.
Yeah.
We said lightning round, so I'm
Lightning
going. The Vikings have burned me 2 weeks in a row now.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna pick them. They're at home, shaking it up with who knows what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be enough of a shake-up, and then also it's the Lions. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the Vikings -5.5.
I'm taking the Lions.
Wow.
Matthew Stafford, good season. We'll see what
Stupid.
happens.
It's a dumb choice.
I
You
don't
made a
feel
dumb
good about it.
Next game.
Next game. Broncos at Raiders. Sunday Night Football. Game of the week.
It's an
Pick 'em.
exciting game.
Yeah. So the Raiders are 6-2, but they're 5-0 on the road.
They're so good
Which
on the road.
is insane that they played 5 on the road and 3 at home. So somehow they're better for that. But this is a classic offense-defense. Oakland 5th in offense. Denver 3rd in defense.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you like?
Well, so we talked about this a little bit with Peter King on the podcast about Derek Carr and
We did.
how I love the Raiders, and I've been picking the Raiders because I don't know, believe in them in a strange way. And Carr had 513 passing yards last week. It was
Insane.
a ridiculous game.
Yeah.
And there was that
Crazy
interview on the MMQB where he was like, he just seemed so genuinely.
Yeah.
When someone told me I broke that record, it was like, oh my God, me? That's so cool.
Yeah.
He seems like he's easy to root for to me. This is the first time that the Raiders are in Sunday Night Football.
Which is insane.
In over a decade.
Ever on NBC.
Yeah.
That's how long.
That's
Isn't
wild.
that crazy?
That's
Feels
wild.
like NBC's been doing it our whole lives.
So I feel like that they're in the spotlight. It's their moment to show everybody who's sort of not really been paying attention to the Raiders, like,
Yeah.
hey, what's up? We're here. I got to ride or die with them, so I'm gonna pick the Raiders.
I agree. This is a real big test for them, but I don't know. Denver's just not scaring me on offense. I think Oakland can outscore them. Should be good.
Yeah, it should be a good one. Go Derek.
Go Derek.
Go Derek.
Our
Bo Derek. Sorry, just go ahead. Third game.
I'm gonna plow through that one. Our third game, Bills at Seahawks. This is the Monday night game. The Seahawks favored by 6.5.
I don't.
Whoa, big line.
Seahawks are so frustrating to me.
Yeah. So Russell Wilson hasn't thrown a touchdown in a month.
Is that bad?
That's real bad.
Are you
That's
saying
a
that's
long
not
time.
good?
He only has 5. It's week 9.
Their offensive
What is
line
going on?
so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
It's really bad.
It's so bad.
And he's got like 17 different injuries, but is playing through them for some reason.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about this is idiotic Rex Ryan conceding the AFC East to the Pats last week.
That's
Just
not-
like, yeah, we're not going to catch them. They're 2 games up. Like,
But you've
it's
got to
bullshit.
understand, for Rex Ryan, that is like revolutionary.
Is it?
Normally at this point he'd be like, "Oh, we're gonna win the entire Super Bowl. Everything is ours."
Wouldn't
to
you rather him
concede-
say that
I
if
don't
you were
know.
played for him or
I
were a
don't
fan?
know. I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't get what he's doing. But
Like, who's that motivating? Like, besides the Patriots,
Maybe.
like I don't understand.
maybe
him.
he's trying reverse psychology. You know, when you're a parent, which I know all about. Let me tell you how to parent your children. When you're
It was a
parenting,
nice hair toss. It
you
really
just-
had it.
You keep trying to tell the kid, please don't do that, please don't do that, please don't do that. You're starting to go insane. After a while, you're going to go, you know what? Draw on the wall with your crayons. And hope the kid goes, well, no, I don't want to.
Yeah,
I think
maybe.
he's hoping Bill Belichick is like, well, now you can have it.
Right.
We don't want it anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah. This
Huh.
is like they're fighting
I like
over a
this
woman.
theory.
And Rex is like, you know what? She's yours. And then now Bill's going to be like, but I don't want.
Yeah.
Wait, she's actually kind
But
of off.
I only
That's
right.
what's
yeah.
happening here.
Okay.
But just that's what Rex thinks is happening here. To be
Right.
clear, that's
Bill
not
Belichick's like,
Bill
"Who's
Belichick's
Rex
not
Ryan?"
going to go.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want it anymore.
Yeah. He's
don't-
not going to lose any sleep
I
over
don't think
this.
Bill Belichick has listened to a thing Rex Ryan has said in maybe like 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's better for it. I
Rex
wish
is
I could
just,
say
like,
the same.
Yelling. Like Bill Belichick has muted Rex Ryan on Twitter. Like Rex
Yes.
doesn't realize, so he keeps tweeting at him.
Right.
That's
Bro,
that's like this
bro.
is the equivalent of that.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll check the people I have muted just to see if they are still tweeting at me, and they are, and I'm like, that's so satisfying. You are yelling, and you think I can hear you. I can't hear a word
Can't
you
do
say.
it.
I muted
I'm
you.
just living blissfully.
That's Rex Ryan and
I
Bill
like that.
Belichick.
It's a great analogy.
Yeah, I'm all about the metaphors today. Penalties against Seahawks last week were annoying.
Yes.
Officiating is annoying. These are all things NFL fans know.
Yes.
I don't know what to do with this game. I don't like that line.
It's huge.
But
who is Seattle beating by a touchdown right now?
No one, because they haven't thrown any.
Right.
But it's the Bills.
It is the Bills. They are a very streaky team. They've dropped their last two. They dropped their first two, and they won 4 in a row in between.
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
But the Seahawks play the Patriots the next week, and so I wouldn't mind them.
A short week.
I almost want them to win.
Right, so then Patriots are a must-win. But you guys are coming off bye, and you'll win that.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just sort of want them to win so they're not coming in against the Patriots like, oh my God, we got to fucking beat them. I want them to feel comfortable so that we can then snatch that away. I let Richard Sherman know. I told him to take that week off.
Oh, you did? That's right.
I said, please,
That's right.
I'm like, have a really good season except when you play the Patriots.
He didn't seem open to it.
No,
Weird.
he was, but, I tried. Anyway, I'm going to say, this is really hard because I don't want to pick the Bills, but I do think they'll cover, but it's in Seattle. I just wish it wasn't 6.5. This would be much easier.
It's huge. I'm taking the points. I'll go with the Bills. Can't believe it. Hate it.
I think the Seahawks are going to stop losing me money this week. I just think I'm going with a lot of teams that have burned me, not the Raiders. Love them, but I'm going with the Vikings, and I'm going to go with Seattle. Seattle minus 6.5. I think they're finally going to get their shit together because they know that allegedly, if I were to be a person who would put money on these types of things, they would have cost me a bunch of it.
Always
by now.
in theory. Yep.
Maybe if I were that person.
Yeah.
Not saying that I am. Can't confirm or deny.
Nope. Not even commenting on it.
I
Just
also
doing
think,
a full podcast about it.
I also think, as much as I hate the Players Tribune, that's how you know I really mean what I'm about to say. I think everybody should go read Richard Sherman's article on the Players Tribune about Goodell and the domestic violence policy and all that.
Agreed.
But of course you know that I was going to say that. So anyway. Also, just check the Players Tribune because I'm sure someone retired today and they want to announce it for you.
Ray Allen.
Wait, really?
Like a week ago.
Oh, I was like, wait, he announced it again?
Yeah. Might as well have.
Yeah, whenever someone says blank retired, I'm like, nah, I just refreshed Players Tribune. It's not on there, so I don't believe you.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I guess lock of the week.
Yeah, lock of the week.
We'll say the Saints minus 3.5 over the 49ers.
Yeah.
Don't care. Bye.
Makes sense.
Junkmail.
Junkmail. It's from Ducks Fanatic.
Oh, I know this guy. He's been around for a while.
Is his real name Ducks?
Sure is.
All right. All right. So, Ducks Fanatic. Now that the Cubs have broken the seal, is that the correct euphemism for that?
Yeah, sure.
Rank your top 5 unfortunate yet lovable, parentheses, or not, LOL, end of parentheses, teams in all sports. I don't know if we can name 5, but we can name a few.
I don't know.
Yeah. I think the Bills are certainly up there. At this
Lovable
point.
For me is tough, but I guess so because they throw selfie sticks on the field.
Yeah.
Right?
Selfie sticks, yeah. Less they're fans, more like, oh, Buffalo.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Like just feeling bad for them and stuff.
Yeah.
I have sort of, but this isn't. They're not an unfortunate team, but like the Bears in the last few years, I've been like, oh come on.
I know.
Let's help them out.
I know.
Who else do you feel bad for? What?
Browns.
Not really.
You don't feel bad for them?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I don't know.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I
They
don't
don't, yeah.
Yeah, they don't.
We kind of need the Browns. They're like the gravity of the NFL,
Yeah.
right? Like, they just, like, bring everything down.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, we need somebody like that.
The Falcons, kind of.
Yeah, no Super Bowls for them.
I like Matt Ryan, and I feel like stuff always happens to him in a bad way. I was on TNF promo this week.
That's right. Yeah.
Everyone's favorite.
Everyone's favorite.
Who else? Other sports. I'm trying to think other sports.
The
Capitals aren't lovable.
Yeah, any Washington team, I would like them to win a championship at some point. It's been a little while.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's been a little while.
Lovable bad teams.
Minnesota hasn't won a championship in forever.
But like, who's
like Timberwolves, Vikings?
Who's
They're not
upset?
like, who cares? Yeah.
I don't think there's like a national conversation about many other teams now. That's a weird realization.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
There isn't like
The Cubs,
the poor
that's gone.
tortured blanks.
Right.
I'm sure after this someone's gonna tweet.
Well,
like, you
there's
fucking
like
idiot.
the Eagles and like but like who? No one's rooting
No.
for them.
I don't really feel bad for them. But it would be cool, I guess, to see him win a Super Bowl. I don't know.
Yeah.
The Patriots, I'd say the
Yeah, Boston
tortured
needs some more championships,
Patriots
right?
and the poor Red Sox.
Yeah.
It's been a while for the Celtics. It's been like 7 years? I mean, poor things.
This went where
How
I
many
thought
years
it
has
would.
it actually done? Anyway, do you have any others? Anyone in the room have any others?
Yeah, we're
Teams
missing
you feel
any?
bad for?
Maybe it's because I'm from Tampa, but all Tampa teams.
Tampa. The Lightning just won though, didn't they?
Yeah.
A few years ago.
Say
Why do I know that?
No.
Chargers. Yeah, their fans don't even show up. Sorry, Chargers fans.
San Diego is the longest.
Oh, the Padres.
Oh yeah.
I feel a little bad for the Padres. I
Yeah.
guess.
It's easy up here on your ivory
On my
Boston
from my
throne.
beautiful throne.
Yeah.
Hey, we had it hard for a while.
You did, like 10 years of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I lived a really long. I was 8. Anyway, okay, that's an interesting conversation that I actually
Yeah,
really
that
didn't,
actually is
I
a-
didn't
yeah.
think of it that way.
Good question, Ducks fanatic.
Yeah, good job, Ducks. Okay, that's it for the Garbage Time Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes, guys, where you can rate us and leave a comment, but only if it's 5 stars and if the comment is nice, because, that's just the right thing to do. And
That's
we're
right.
almost in the holiday season, and, we're near Thanksgiving, and it's like you should be giving thanks
Yeah.
to our podcast.
That's right. It's free.
Publicly, where everybody can hear you.
That's right.
You can also listen on, I do this every week. You can listen on SoundCloud, Art19, watch the video on youtube.com/Katie Nolan. Really, you can listen wherever it is you like to listen to podcasts. Like on one of those Vitamix.
Oh,
things.
yeah. That's a new feature.
Yep, there's the smoothie, and
Yep.
then there's the protein shake feature.
Yep.
There's the juicing,
Yep.
and then there's pods.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a different
Which
color
a lot of
button.
people think is like bean pods, and it's like,
Right.
no.
Oh, no. Do not
This is
put
for
beans in there.
podcasts.
Yeah, right.
If you go to beans, which is the next setting, that's
Right.
for where you put your bean pods.
Wish I knew that before I had beans for breakfast. What?
Big thanks to producer Matt.
Yeah, I'll just leave. See ya.
Big thanks to producer Matt and to Peter King for coming by. And as always, guys, thanks to you guys for listening. We will see you next week. Bye. Love you, Mina.